The BAFTA for Game Innovation goes to That Dragon Cancer.
Thank you all so much. Our life with Joel was hard, but it was really beautiful. And so when we thought about creating a game that would become the only legacy he would have, the legacy we chose and he could not, we created a game that was hard to play, but we believe it was beautiful. And we thank you for believing the same thing and for everyone who invests emotionally as they play our game.
I just wanted to add that so much of our careers we spend creating, but almost out of a means to an end. And I just wanted to thank the people that allowed us to create by giving us the means to create. And it's executives like Julie Ehrman and Kelly Santiago who took a chance on us early on and believed that what we were creating should exist.
And for some, we represent a decades-long journey toward legitimacy, a way to be admired, respected for the potential that we all see in this medium. But I just want to say, if we can use that passion, that force, to be united by supporting each other, whether we're players or developers or streamers or publishers, we'll have already arrived at our destination because the world is starving for a unity that we can already demonstrate today. Thank you.
Guys, congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing your story. At what point did you kind of decide that this is the path that you guys wanted to go down?
I can't tell you, it just kind of happened. There was one night that I spent in the hospital with Joel that really stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And it was a moment where I felt the most desperate I've ever felt in my life, but it was also a moment where I felt tangible grace. Yeah. You know, that moment that you feel like God sees you. And that was something that I wanted to share with people, is how desperate and powerless that we can feel, but that hope that's created in the midst of being seen.
I was honestly, like, especially that moment where you entered the room with all the cards, like, that hope really does come across, because obviously there are moments of terrible, like, grief and you know, you just don't know what you guys were going through, but those moments really lifted it up. And
well, I think the thing that we find is that, you know, our little world, it's so easy to get focused on your little world, and we were certainly within our own little world the past few years, and we've been focused in. But I think that those cards represented, like, our Kickstarter backers and messages that they left to their family, and so it's amazing. As soon as you allow yourself to open yourself beyond your little world, you discover that everybody else's world looks the same. And I think that was one of those moments in the game where you just kind of get this idea that we're all in this together.
Yes, and that's actually, you know what, that's absolutely what came across, and you find such comfort and such joy. There were like, I think the game really ended on a moment of joy.
It makes me so glad to hear you say that, because it's what we felt like when we had Joel, when we were living with him, is we just kept thinking there's so much joy here that people would never expect. There's so much life and so much love, even in the middle of knowing that he could die and that he would die. And so we wanted the game to feel joyful, and we weren't sure if it would, but we really wanted it to. So I'm so glad that you felt that.
It really did. I mean, I guess because you guys started demoing it before the final release, right? Was that to kind of gauge what people's feedback was going to be?
It kind of got away from us. I mean, we showed something just with the hopes that we would gain some traction so that we could get somebody to believe in it to help us finish it. And people started talking about it. And so it felt like when we started to show it, we really felt like we were connecting with people. And it felt like the thing that we could do in the midst of this. In the midst of this really hard thing, we could share our hearts, and we could embrace other people and talk to strangers and hear about their stories and hope.
Those early responses actually ended up being so helpful for us, because there were things that we were so used to they didn't feel emotional to us. And then when we would see the emotional response from other people, we'd know that sometimes we need to pull it back a little bit more than we expected. And so we could kind of adjust what we were doing based on how people responded early on.
Yeah,
I would say the intensity of reaction really came as a surprise.
Yeah.
In early 2013, we were at the Game Developers Conference and started sharing the game with people for the first time, people outside of kind of our close circle. And we did not expect that kind of reaction from it was just a 5 to 10 minute really crude demo with lots of bugs, but people saw something that really struck them and spoke to their heart. Even though, it wasn't something that was some high production
Yeah.
or something, really polished, but the authenticity and the soul of it really spoke to them.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I don't think you could find a single person that could say, oh, if there were bugs or anything like that. But it's just the fact that you guys were so kind as to put your heart out there and put your personal story out there. But it must have been, there must have been hard times where you weren't maybe sure, like, if you wanted to keep going. What kind of kept you on that track?
We talked a lot about how we're not sure what we would have done when Joel died if we weren't already making this game for him. Because nothing seems to matter in those moments, in those weeks after. But for our family, making this game did matter to us. So, the week after his funeral, it was something we could keep doing for him. Our whole family had revolved around him for years. And it felt like a way to keep revolving around him. And so in many ways, releasing the game for us became that moment of finally having to sort of move on
Yes.
from Joel's life, even though we'll never fully move on from his life. But the game, I think, let us kind of continue to do something to honor him. It felt important to us.
Yes.
So in that way, it was easy to keep doing because we didn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, and I mean that's why it's wonderful to be honored in this way. And I mean you must still be receiving stories and feedback from many people. What has that kind of been like for you guys?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's always amazing when someone responds to us and emails us or messages us and tells us what the game meant to them. One of the most incredible things for me is that there's so much we wanted to say in the game, and we chose to speak mostly through the metaphor of the mechanics of the game. So we never got to explicitly say the things maybe that we learned or that we felt during those times. But we'll get these letters from people who will say, after I finished the game, it just made me realize that I want to say yes to my children. I want to give them the things that they want in that positive way, to give them that attention, to stop what I'm doing and focus on them. And it's amazing because that's what I learned in that time with Joel. And over again, people will tell me what the game meant to them. And it keeps being things that I learned as Joel's mom. And it just makes me so happy that somehow those concepts got through in the language of metaphor and poetry, even though we didn't specifically talk about them.
It's honestly such a special thing for you guys to have shared. And I mean, it is just such a wonderful game. Like, the little ideas that you have in there, the go-karting, everything else. Like, the way that you tell the story really is wonderful. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you.